All right. Very good morning. Very good evening. Um Welcome to this RAC administration workshop. Uh, right. As everyone aware, today and tomorrow are going to be two demo sessions for this particular RAC administration workshop. Right. So these are like public link where everyone will be joining from all over the world, and then everyone are allowed to unmute yourself, ask if you have any questions or queries, or if you are unable to talk, feel free to use the chat box and post your queries or comments over here. I'll be happy to answer all of them. Right. In the interest of everyone's time, if there's any disturbance, please go yourself unmute and be quiet so that it will not disturb the sessions. I would request everyone to make it interactive so that it will be interesting for everyone. You can ask whatever questions or queries you have it regarding this particular course, and then I'll take it from there and I'll try to answer as much as I can. Right. What is planned for today and tomorrow? I'll just start with uh, the introduction or intro about myself because I'm your trainer and I'll just talk 2 or 3 minutes about me, and then I'll start with a course curriculum, and then followed by RAC concepts. Like few topics I can say RAC concept in the like few of the topics like your RAC architecture, RAC networking, and some of the internals of RAC. So that is purely the way, the style, or the sessions how will be conducted going forward. So just to feel that if you like and you like the course content and you like the curriculum, you are continue with the course. And then if you don't like, or if anything is missing in the course curriculum, or if something need to be added in the course curriculum, feel free to post your comment, and then I will try to revisit my course curriculum and then try to accomplish or try to add into this existing course curriculum, right? So let's get started with the the intro, or the the course content or the course curriculum, and then we'll take any questions or queries if anyone has it. Right. So myself, Mallikarjun, having around 15 years of experience in the IT industry, worked in various organizations, uh, including insurance, finance, e-commerce, and so many big customers. And then worked for various database versions, starting with 9i, 10G, 11G, 12C, 19C, and then currently 23C, including Oracle Cloud and AWS, or the other areas where I worked. And also I worked for various Oracle products. Oracle product in the sense, as a DBA, we are limited, or we are aware of there's a database and there's a RAC, there's a data guard, there's a golden gate. But is that only word with Oracle? The Oracle is a big giant. It has so many other products, like it has Oracle Exadata, Oracle Supercluster, Oracle JDL Array, Oracle ODA, Oracle Exalogic, and Oracle EBS, Oracle OBI, Oracle PeopleSoft, Oracle Soha. So these are like so many products or so many services provided by Oracle. So I worked most of these Oracle product. Oracle is my word, and I worked most of them. I worked on Exadata, I worked on Exalogic, I worked on Supercluster, I worked on JDL Array, I worked on ODA, I worked on EBS, I worked on OBI, I worked on almost like most of the products in the Oracle world. And that's my primary area, and that's my primary focus, and that's my primary skill. And this entire 15 years, I worked all of these Oracle as a primary skill. I worked almost all of those products. And then is that only limitations what I have it? No, I expanded my skills in the other areas, and also I worked on the other products other than the Oracle. Like I worked on MS SQL, I worked on Postgres, I worked on MySQL, and I worked on IBM DB2, I worked on SAP HANA, provided by SAP. Right, these are my other secondary database skills. And again, is that only limitations to the database world? I have limited my skills. No, I also worked on other products on other than Oracle world in the DevOps areas. I worked on Kubernetes. I worked on cookbooks, Jenkins. I worked on Perl scripting, Python scripting, Shell scripting, and I also worked on our Terraform. Right. So why I expanded my knowledge in the DevOps field? Because the tools or the scripting knowledge or the whatever the DevOps concept we have it to just to make use of those concepts and make my DBA life easy, to make my day-to-day activities much more automated manner. So in order to support my DBA work, I learned these other skills as well. And then everyone says that cloud is a future focus. Is it good or is it worth to explore more on the cloud knowledge? Yes, of course, you have to learn the cloud knowledge because that is going to be the future focus. And with that, I also expanded my knowledge in the Oracle Cloud. I worked almost like multiple customers on this Oracle Cloud OCI. And then in that OCI, we have so many services, database as services, your data warehouse database, that's autonomous database, and so many things, your VPC, your gateways, routers. I worked on multiple clients and multiple customers on Oracle Cloud, and also I learned AWS. I worked for one of the AWS migration project. Right, so that is my other cloud knowledge. Right, so that is in a short description about me, where I spent almost this 15 years in this various products and in these various technologies and the uh, other fields. But having all this knowledge, if somebody asks what is your primary skills, I am always happy to say that Oracle is my primary domain, Oracle is my primary skills, and happy to serve my knowledge in this Oracle domain for next upcoming further years as well, and doing it from last 15 years as well. Right. So yeah, that is all depending upon how much interest you have it in learning or grasping other technologies, other knowledge, how much you are willing to learn the new concepts, right? You have to be dynamic enough, you have to be strong enough to acquire and learn the new skills. Whenever there's a new opportunities, grab it and learn it, explore it, so that you are strong pillar in the market and you will get a lot of opportunities if you are up to date in the market and if you are willing to learn and open to learn and open to take any challenges and open to learn any new concept, new technologies. If you have open-minded heart, and then you can easily sustain in this competitive world, and also you can easily grab as much as opportunities available in the market. Right, that is what I believe, and then I was doing it from last 15 years, and then I'm continuing to do that one. Right, so that is about me, and I'm your instructor for this particular RAC course, and I'm not conducting somebody who can train on behalf of me, nothing like that. I'm the only one person here. I'll be teaching and I'll be conducting entire this course. Right. So, and you might be also aware that you might, most of them, you are following my blog or following my YouTube channel and my social media platform, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and all. You might have seen all my regular posts on this Oracle Word, Oracle technologies. So that is my strongest area, and then the key skills where I was working for last these 15 years and continue to do it for upcoming years as well. Right. Again, guys, if you have any questions or queries, feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask. It may be anything. It may be related to this course, or it may be related to your career, or it may be related to your future plans, or like how you can sustain in this market. Anything. These are like just an open forum for discussion for today and tomorrow. These are like public links for anyone can ask any questions related to this course or the curriculum or your future track or future focus on this Oracle world. Right. If you don't have any questions, I'm just gonna go to the next point. That's about the course curriculum, because we are all here to learn this particular course and enhance our skills and get a new opportunities. All
Good
right.
morning, Malik. I have a question. My name is Vijay Lamba.
Yep. Yeah, Vijay.
Do you also take OCI course, Oracle's cloud infrastructure?
No, right now I'm conducting only two courses. One is Oracle Core DBA, and the other one
Okay,
is Oracle RAC. And
got
then there are a lot of requests from my previous batch, previous students, to start the PT, performance tuning class. I'm in the process of forming the course curriculum. It's almost ready. It's supposed to start by this Jan, but it was postponed by hardly 1 or 2 months. Probably in Feb or mid of Feb, I'm going to start the uh, next class. That's a performance tuning class. That's going to be very first class publicly. I'm offering it, but right now only two courses: database and the RAC.
got it. Thank you.
All right. There's one more question in the chat here. One-to-one chat. Good morning. Do you also conduct post-K DB as well? Right. Right now, as I answered, I'm not taking any other courses other than this database, core DBA, and then the RAC. If at all, next course is going to be performance tuning. Right. Okay. There's one more thing. Please add OCI to manage database and the RAC in the cloud. Uh, yeah, probably that is a good point. We should add OCI content into this cloud, into this RAC course. But again, that's a different. Once you jump into this OCI, that's all going to be different course. But at the basics level, how OCI Oracle Cloud works, that can be covered as 1 or 2 sessions. But yeah, complete understanding should be a different, a separate course for OCI. Right, let's quickly go to the course curriculum. This is the course curriculum link, or you can go to my blog and malik034blogspot.com and click on trainings and RAC. That's going to take you to RAC course curriculum. Yeah, it is all self-explanatory. I explained multiple times in my YouTube channel. I'm going to just take 2 to 3 minutes to just to cover. We'll start with the introduction about the RAC cluster, RAC concept, RAC architecture, RAC networking, RAC internals. But on top of that, most of the times the the question comes from my students are, or the before commencing this particular course, are we going to cover installation part? Yes, we are very much interested in understanding end-to-end RAC installation first. You should be able to do entire rack, a 2 node, 3 node, 4 node, whatever it is. You should be able to install the rack setup by your own after end of this particular course. And also you should be able to support as a rack expert or rack admin for any of the client after completion of this course. And if you go through this course curriculum, we'll start with the cluster aware understanding. What is cluster aware and what is the cluster aware architecture? What's the rack architecture? And then we'll start with the installation networking understanding. Like networking understanding, we'll get a lot of concept like DNS server, your name server, your public IP, private IP, your VIP, scan IP, your SAID disk, your ASM disk. We'll all understand the core fundamental understanding, for your fundamental concept of your networking. Once we understand all the networking and all, we'll do a clusterware installation. That's your ASM installation. Again, there are many terms or the concept we'll call it here, but if you're already familiar on this, you will understand. But if you're not, probably once we start the course, you'll understand all of these concept. What is clusterware? What is ASM? What is RAC? What is your ASM home? What is your cluster home? What is your right, all of these, like whatever I'm talking about, your scan IP, VIP, a public IP, and what is public network, what is private network, what is your DNS server, what is your name server. All these like terminologies new to DBAs. Like if you are very first time entering into this rack concept, these all terminologies are going to be new and then get confused. But once we commence or once we continue this course, these are going to be very familiar words and you will be able to answer all of them. And these are the keywords very often confuse us and very often asked in most of the interview. What is scan? What is scan IP? Is a scan is a public IP or the private IP? Is a scan physical IP or the VIP? Right? In the scan itself, in high level, I can ask 3 4 questions, right? So similarly, once you complete this course and you'll be able to answer by your own, right? So that's about here. Very first thing we'll start with the architecture part and the fundamental ground rule where you should be able to first understand the rack concept, rack architecture, clusterware concept, and what's the difference between rack and the clusterware. Why these many words, right? So all this will cover, and then followed by networking, and followed by your clusterware installation, that's ASM installation, followed by your Oracle home installation, and followed by your shared disk group creation and your database creation. Right. So once you are able to understand each and every concept and do your own setup, that's almost covers your 40% of rack understanding. Remaining all 60% is to go in depth and try to understand internals of your rack and then do it. So installation part, once you're able to do a complete end to end, that itself will cover around 30 to 40% of understanding in the rack concepts, because each and every installation has different terminologies. The moment I say public IP, private IP, scan IP, VIP, public network, private network, and your scan name, your cluster name, and your cluster, your ASM. The moment all of these words, this concept, you're gonna cover it as part of the installation itself. Once you're able to do a complete installation, that itself covers your 30% or 40% of rack or the clusterware understanding completely. And remaining all 60% is to how to administrate that, how to go internal to the track and understand the internal concept of the rack, how the scan works and all of them. Right, and then followed by we'll start with the ASM, because for your when you say rack, when you say clusterware, your ASM is a fundamental base. Without ASM, you cannot able to sustain or you cannot able to run your clusterware. Again, there's a different concept called Flex ASM, where without ASM also you can configure your rack cluster and run your database instance. That's a different topic we're going to cover during the class. But yeah, ASM is a fundamental ground rule or fundamental understanding, fundamental base for your rack database to run, your rack database to reside. ASM will act as your intermediator between your database instance and the storage, and also ASM will provide a storage flexibility for your database to store your data or store your any of the application data. So we'll understand the ASM architecture, ASM concept, ASM storage, and ASM administration, and followed by your rack on clusterware administration, maintenance, and followed by your clusterware administration like OCR, voting disk, cluster resource, local resource, and your various IPs, and followed by your rack database administration like your how you're gonna manage your data files, your SP file, control file, redo log files, temp files, and how you can maintain your password files, SP files, and how you can add or delete any table space or data files. So various those are like day-to-day activities what everyone can support for any client. And followed by your backups and recovery, one of the backbone for your any organization data, because if there's any crash happens, you should have a strong backup and recovery to support how quickly you can restore your database, how much data you're willing to lose in case of any crash happens. That is in business terminology we call it as a uh, RPO and RTO. recovery time, objective, recovery point, objective. We'll cover more on that during the backup and recovery. Those are the two terminologies in the business terminology. They will call it as RPO and RTO. So we'll talk about that backup and recovery understanding. Your RMAN, a full backup, incremental backup, level 0 and level 1. In level 1, cumulative and differential. And then in case of RAC, how we're gonna take a backup on which node and multiple channels and all those things. And then with those backups, how you can do restore recovery of my data files, control files, redo log files, and complete RMAN cloning. All that like we'll gonna cover over here. And followed by your listeners. We have so many listeners in RAC. Your grid listener or ASM listener, your database listener, your local listener, scan listener, your ASM net listener, and then where these listener will run on VIP or run on public IP or run on private IP. All of them we're going to cover in the listener concept, and followed by your multi-tenant architecture, CDBs and PDBs. That is going to be one of the future focus from Oracle, right? So we'll cover end to end on the multi-tenant architecture, CDB architecture, PDB architecture, and various method to clone your PDBs. Right. So again, there are a lot of things to talk, but I just mentioned high level points over here. We'll be covering so many things. Like for example, if I take one example here, creating a PDB or cloning a PDB, there are like 5 to 6 options. Create a brand new PDB or clone a PDB from other existing PDB or clone a PDB from the remote CDB or a clone a PDB from non-CDB, or you can unplug and plug it. All this, like, I just mentioned 1 or 2 words here, but internally there will be like 10 or 20 ways to do that. All will be covered as part of this course. And then the ACFS, ASM cluster file system. Again, this term should be looks new, but once you continue or continue to support on this rack, you will be able to familiar with these words. ACFS stands for ASM cluster file system. Whatever the disk group you have, it take the part of the disk group and mount it as a normal file system for your day-to-day operations. We'll talk about that ACFS, how you can configure and how you can administrate that ACFS file system as part of this RAC course. And the RAC one node versus RAC, what's the difference and what's the advantages? How I can convert my standalone database to RAC or RAC database to standalone. One of the common questions or common request often we get it. My production database is a 4 node RAC. I need to restore into my development database, which is a 2 node RAC, or which is not a RAC, which is a local file system. How I can do that, right? So all those concepts will be covering over here. RAC one node or versus RAC. What's the difference? What are the advantages? And then the patching. You're patching GI home, your Oracle home, patching your database, OPatch versus OPatch auto. How you can do this OPatch automation. Right, so rolling patching, non-rolling patching, will be discussed more in detail here. And your database upgradation for the RAC databases, what are the various methods? You can pretty much have around 4 to 5 methods of your database upgrade, like manual method or the GUI method or the Perl script method of database upgrade or the shell script method of database upgrade, or you can go with the 19C auto upgrade, or there are various backup and recovery tools, or there are various upgrade tools in the market provided by the third party vendor. What are those tools and what are the best tools in the market? So all we can discuss over there. The node addition and node removal. You have right now 4 node rack cluster. You want to add one more fifth node. How can do that? Or right now it is a 4 node rack cluster. I don't want to use the node 3 and 4. How can I remove that? And then again conversion for standalone to rack to standalone, all of them, right? So yeah, that pretty much about the course curriculum at till the chapter number 22. And then these 3 chapters are very interesting, right? Like one is resume writing and cover letter, and then I'll go through my own resume in the sense whatever resume I have it right now up to date, I'm gonna go over all the resume and cover letter. and then I'm gonna explain about how you should write the resume. What are the main topics you should be concentrating, you should be mentioning in the resume and cover letter, and then what are the tips which will help us shortlisting the any opportunities, right? Like most of you guys are, whenever you apply for new opportunities, you won't get any interview call back. So that is because of lack of lack of content in your resume. There are some certain tips or the tricks where you have to write your resume. You have to incorporate those tips, incorporate those standards in your resume, so that the moment any recruiter see your resume, should give a call back, should take it further. So those are the things I'm gonna take a live example of my own resume, and I'm gonna uh, go through that how it should be, and also we'll be covering what is cover letter and what's the importance of that. Right. So then followed by interview questions. Again, throughout this entire course or the concept, we'll be covering the sample interview questions what are asked in the regular interview. And again, at the end of the course also, there is a document I'll be keep on appending. All the questions and queries will be, all the interview questions and the answers will be appended into that Google Drive. You can just open one single document and see all the questions over there with the answers. So before going with any interview, you just go through that single document and you will be able to crack, or you'll be able to answer most of the questions asked in the interview, because those are purely based upon my experience, or uh, based upon my circle wherever attended for whichever interview. All those questions will be stored over there. And then at the end of the course, there'll be a mock interview. It's like one-to-one interview. It's all subjected to everyone's interest. If you're interested, you have to go and register that mock interview, where I'll be connecting with you one-to-one, and then I'll be asking questions like a real-time interview, and you will be feeling that you are actually giving a real-time interview. And then if you are making any mistake in the interview, I'll be making a note of that, and end of the session, I'll be giving you the feedback, how you could have made better, how you could have handled that particular situation where you could not able to answer it. So, and then where are the areas you need to improve in the interview, right? Those are the things I'll be making a note, and then I'll provide you the feedback end of this. But that's about the course curriculum or the course content. Anyone has any questions or the queries or the concerns on this particular course curriculum?
This is Vijay again. I have a question. So all this, are we starting the course today, or is it going to be on the 13th?
I'm going to cover that in next few minutes.
Okay.
About the course timing.
Hi, Lakshmi is here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Actually, in this course content, I'm unable to find out the data code configuration in RAC. I mean, I heard cloning is there. So
yeah, the data guard is not covered over here, but one particular topic, the data guard build for rack to rack, will be covered at the end of this course.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Malik. Are we saying ASM conversion? Means ASM to non-ASM?
Yes. That's part of your RMAN, restore and recovery. Again, I'm not mentioned all of those concepts here, but as I said, you will be showing demonstration, or will be covering the concept, how we are going to do from rack to non-rack, or non-rack to rack, or 4-node rack to 2-node rack, or 2-node rack to 4-node rack. All those concepts will be covered here in this particular backups and recoveries.
So all are like practical and this
Right.
theoretical, correct?
Right. Everything is practical here. And theoretical part, I'll just give a documentation. You are going to read that. I'll just explain one or few things, like few words about that concept in a simple layman term. And you can go back and refer the document in detail. But everything, whatever I'm going to teach, it will be purely just demo. Just log into server and then free LAN. You can just, I'm going to type the commands.
Hi, Malik.
Everything will be practical.
This is Varun. I would just like to know, are we going to get the recorded session so that we can watch it over and again?
Right. I'm going to cover that. All will be explained. I'm going to explain it everything in a minute.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, Mali, this is Sudhir. In this curriculum, with respect to performance tuning with the RAC,
No,
it's
performance tuning is a different course. As I said, beginning of this course, the next course, if I'm starting, that will be a
okay.
performance tuning. That's going to be separate course.
Okay. Yeah. And is there any possibility to provide the labs on pay to
Labs?
practice?
No. Labs, again, I'm going to cover it in a minute about the labs and how we're going to set up.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, let's take that concept now because it's going to answer most of everyone's question, most of the questions, whatever you have it. Right now, what we covered is about the course curriculum. We'll come back to that in a minute, but yeah, let's continue with that. So now, whatever we just talked is, it's not a, probably there's a typo here. It's not a, it's a old one. What we're doing it here, let's go over here. So whatever we covered just now, it's a RAC course curriculum, but the actual course, whatever today and tomorrow are going to be demo. I'm going to start in a few minutes, I'm going to start one or two concepts on this RAC, then you will understand it. Your actual class is going to start on next weekend onwards. Right? What that mean, this particular RAC course, whatever we are covering is only a weekend batch. This is only weekend batch. The classes are on only Saturday and Sunday. The timings are going to be 8 AM IST to 12 PM IST. That is 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. In EST, it will be 9:30 PM EST to 1:30 AM EST. I know in the Eastern time zone it will be too late, but yeah, we cannot manage two separate sessions, but somehow need to be like arranged over here. But that is not gonna be enough here because everyday sessions, whatever we're going to conduct, will be recorded and then will be uploaded into a Google Drive. If you're not able to attend today or miss in the middle because 4 hours is too much. Earlier it was 8 hours in a day, like Saturday 8 hours and Sunday 8 hours, but based upon the feedback, we have made it as a 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday so that people can accommodate. So in case if you miss any of those classes, don't worry because you will be getting access on the Google Drive where you can see all the recordings of the previous batch and also recordings of this ongoing batch. So if you miss it, you can refer, you can watch that recordings and you'll be up to date. And also at the same time, we'll be getting the previous batch recording so that if the next week we are starting the new concepts, you well in advance go back to those previous batch recordings, watch them in advance, and then make your questions or queries, keep it ready. Once we start this next class, you can ask all of those questions in live. Or we have a dedicated WhatsApp group for each of these batches. You can post your any questions or queries. Or today I'm explaining the concept and you will be able to understand it. And tomorrow you may forget or tomorrow you may be stuck. You may be lost the track. And then you can use our WhatsApp group. That's a dedicated WhatsApp group. And you can post your questions and I'm gonna answer you back. Or anyone in the group who has already got the answer, they can respond you back. Or you are trying to set up a lab and you stuck with some networking, you stuck with some issues, your installation is stuck, it is not progressing. You just take a screenshot, post it in our WhatsApp group. I'll connect with one-to-one and then I'll unblock you and then you can continue with your installation. Right. So those are like only dedicated WhatsApp group only for this particular registered student. Right now, I think almost like uh, more than 10 students are already made a registration. They already part of the WhatsApp group and they already got access on the Google Drive. They already started watching the previous batch recordings and they're regularly posting the questions in our WhatsApp group. What is this clusterware? What is this scan? What is this VIP? And then we'll be answering the questions and queries will be happening in the WhatsApp group, right? So probably most of them are again here in this particular Zoom link. most of them I can see are part of this batch, right? So that is about the course uh, timings or the course duration, right? So this is only weekend batch, Saturday, Sunday. The actual class is going to start next Saturday, right? So today, 6th Saturday and 7th Saturday are going to be just a demo, and then we'll be starting on 13th January is our actual class. 13th and 14th, one weekend, followed by 2021, second weekend, followed by February 3. Give me a second here. Give me a second, guys. All right, sorry for that. Okay, followed by 3rd and 4th weekend of February, and followed by 10th and 11th weekend of February. Pretty much 5 weekends we try to cover or complete the course. Again, if it is not possible, or here and there 1 or 2 weeks or 1 or 2 weekends may extend. It may be 6 weekends or another one more day, 6.5. It may go based upon how much phase. Pretty much as per my experience, like within 6 weekend, we'll be able to complete entire course. Right. That's about the course timing, course duration. And coming to the fee structure, it is a paid training, which is 15K Indian rupees INR or 185 US dollar. And then the mode of the training is online, right? It's a live classes on the Zoom or the team session or WebEx. I'll be already shared my Zoom link in our WhatsApp group. Again, the moment you make a registration, so I'll be sharing all the details. I'll be adding you to WhatsApp group. I'll be granting access on the Google Drive, right? In that Google Drive, you're going to get all the recordings, again, previous batch recording or this ongoing batch recording. And also you're going to get all the lab materials, all the PPTs, all the workbook, all the scripts, all the softwares and ready labs. Everything will be available in the Google Drive. You're going to get access on the Google Drive. And again, question comes here, is that Google Drive accessible lifetime? Yes, these Google Drives are accessible lifetime. There's no restriction at all. You can access them. And is there any restriction on the accessing the materials? No, there's no restriction. You can even download that content, download that recordings or the course curriculum material PPTs into your own laptop, and you can use them, right? There's no restriction on that. And then again, the other questions might be which version will be covering. It's a purely of Oracle 19C version. This particular course is formed. Right? Any questions here on this particular course curriculum or the course content or the timings or the duration? And if at all you have, if you're interested and continue to continue this particular course, feel free to ping me on my WhatsApp number +91 98806168848, or you can drop me an email or call me on my cell. So probably I can further guide you on the payment process, or uh, and further I'll take it further how we can proceed. I pinged in the chat here. If you're interested, you can save the details, or you can directly ping me on my WhatsApp. I can share further details on how we can make a payment, and any other questions or queries you have it. I'm happy to connect one-to-one with each of you. Right. Any questions, guys, before I take it further?
Yeah. Hi,
So
Malik.
can we
This
pay
is
through
Milind
the
here.
phone pay?
One at a time. Yeah, that's what, like, there'll be a lot of methods are available: phone pay, Google Pay, Western Union, MoneyGram, your Paytm, so many methods. You can ping me one-to-one on my WhatsApp number. I pinged in the chat. I'll share further details on uh, how we can take it further on the payment.
Yeah. Hi, Malik. Milind here.
Yep.
Malik, are we going to also cover the major differences between 12C RAC and 19C?
Major differences. There'll be a new, we can say, what's the difference? What are the new parameters or the new in 12C and 19C? The link will be given, but not in depth about what exactly, like as part of this particular course itself, we'll be covering this is a new feature only available in 19C. When I'm trying to explain about, let's say here, like let's say go back here. If I'm trying to explain about where is that one? Okay. If I'm trying to explain about one of the concepts I'm talking about here, database upgrade. As part of the database upgrade, I'm gonna cover auto upgrade. And then the moment that auto upgrade concept I'm gonna cover, and I'm gonna explain, I'm gonna make the note, this auto upgrade is only available in 19C. It's a 19C new feature, right? There's no separate topic I'm gonna cover that, oh, this is a 12C feature and these are the 19C new feature. Each and every topic I'm gonna explain it over here. I'll be mentioning that, okay, there's a VIP concept. Okay, VIP came in 10G. Okay, there's a scan IP concept. Scan IP came in your 11G version. And then like each and every topic I'll be explaining in that time itself, I'll be mentioning that, okay, which version this particular concept has came. But there's no specific dedicated session that, okay, these are the 12C versions and features, and these are the 19C versions and the future, nothing like that. But as part of the course itself will be covered which version this particular concept came in.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right.
Hello, Malik, this is Jagdish here.
Jagdish, yeah.
Actually, recently I attended one interview. They are asking like how to identify the latest RU patch available for the grid. How can we fetch it from the Oracle support, like that questions? Will you be covering all this?
Yes, that's a pretty much valid question. There's only one single master document. There's only one single master documents. You can just refer that one single documentation where you can see entire your history, entire the patches available or the going to be released by Oracle. And in the simple concept, since you asked about RUs, in simple concept, the release update, that's the new terminologies. Earlier there will be PSU, CPU, security patch, so many things, but all will be replaced with the RU. That's the new terminologies they introduced. And if you're talking about each version, it has its own RU. Your 19C, your 21C, your 23, it has its own RU. If I'm talking about just 19C, so 19C released with the 19.3, that is released on your April 2019. Very first 19C released with the 19.3 in April 2019. And you should be able to understand what is a patching cycle by Oracle. Oracle patching cycle is 4 times in 1 year. Quarterly they're going to release. That will be your April. That will be your very first thing is going to start with the Jan, April, and your July, and then October. These are your cycle release by the Oracle. Jan, April, July, October. What you need to do, you just need to append one single RU every time when they release it. So it'll become 19.4, it'll become 19.5, it'll become 19.6, it'll become 19.7. So you just need to append each cycles, whatever they're releasing here. They released April 2019, after April it will be July. So you just need to keep on adding, it will be July 2019, and followed by it will be your October 2019, and it will be followed by your Jan 2020. So that will gonna continue like this, right? They started with a 19.3 in April. That's the first release they done it, and followed by July, October, Jan. And you should just need to keep on appending them, right? Jan again, July, October. They're gonna keep on growing your each RU 19.7, 8, 9. It'll be keep on adding. Right now, probably 19.20
20, 20.
is 21 is the latest one, right? And then there's a particular master doc, Oracle, one single master documentation. You can see all the RUs listed over there, the patch number. And then if not, you can register with the Oracle MOS with your CSI number. The moment Oracle releases these quarterly patches, you're going to get the advisor note in your email box. Right? There are many options. You can check it out.
Even how to handle the Oracle support website with respect to our patching, will you be
Yeah.
able to explain?
Right.
Any tools?
Yeah, will be covered.
Okay.
How we can download? You have to download the patches from Oracle support.
Support.
Without Oracle support or Oracle MOS access, you will not be able to do any patching.
That requires any license? You need
Right.
to- Okay, we need, even every individual in taking up the course should purchase their license.
Right.
Listen.
Right.
Okay, is it going to cost too much or what? I don't know how much.
No, you don't need to do anything. So we have a license. You can just use that.
Okay, you're going to provide your CSI then. Okay.
Right. All right. So that's about the course curriculum or the course timing, course duration, and the fee structure, and the mode of the training, and then the Oracle version, which will be covering, and what are the topics or the concept will be covered over here. Well, and then what are the requirement? What are the minimum requirement? And somebody asked about, can we provide this online labs, right? So that's the answer is here, right? Give me a second. Right. So the minimum requirement or the fundamental pre-checks before commencing or before registering with this course is you should be knowing the basics of SQLs, how to write your queries, how to connect to database. Because if you don't know a basic database knowledge, the DBA knowledge, and if you don't know basic Linux, at least how to connect, what are the basic commands, what are the basic SQLs. If you don't know all of them, probably this particular RAC course is going to be very difficult and you'll not be able to catch up the things, right? That is very mandatory. You should know basic SQL queries, how to connect to database, how to run the query, and what is the basic Linux command, cd, mkdir, cat, and what is basic minimum knowledge for my database. What is P file, what is SP file, what is control file. You should be aware of all of them. If you don't know P file, you don't know SP file, you don't know control file, you don't know data file, and probably RAC course is going to be very difficult for you. That's your fundamental thumb rule. You should be able to complete all of this database knowledge, SQL, Linux. Once you have completed all of them, and you're good to continue this RAC course. Otherwise, this course will be like you will not be able to, concentrate. I will not be able to catch up the things up to the speed. Right. So that is a basic requirement. And then the hardware requirement. If you have your laptop or the desktop with a minimum 20 GB and 120, minimum 20 GB RAM and 150 GB SSD hard disk, you should be able to do your own setup, and you should be able to work as if you're working in the real-time client environment. That's a minimum requirement to do a setup of lab. If you don't have minimum 20 GB and 150 GB SSD, you will not be able to perform your lab setup. You will not be able to do installation part because your installation part will be stuck. Right. So again, many people will ask, okay, I don't have 20 GB RAM. I have only 16 GB RAM. Can I continue with this course? 16 GB RAM comes to default with any laptop for the standard configuration. Yes, with the 16 GB and you have SSD hard disk of 100 GB. So still you can continue with this particular course, but you will not be able to install the any lab setup by your own, but you have to use the ready labs. But your VMs will be little slow. You have to bear with that slowness and then practice slowly. That also works, but the installation is not possible. Installation will going to be stuck because installation needs a lot of memory and RAM. But you can use a ready lab. We have a ready lab in our Google Drive. You can pretty much use those ready labs, and those are like readily available. You don't need to do installation of anything. Those labs are available with the various versions. You just need to go and then download them and just configure them, and then the labs will be ready. You can just continue to use them. But installation part, you have to just bear with whatever I am explaining it here. So just to get a glance on my Google Drive, how it looks like, if you go, you will be getting access on this RAC course material, and then there will be a lot of folders. We'll be explaining it when how we're using all of these folders in our regular classes. But there's a Oracle lab. Uh, if I can go to ready VMs for RAC, if I go over there, I have this empty servers, lab 1, lab 2, lab 3. You just download this lab 1 and 2, start your own installation by your own. Your grid installation, your cluster installation, your database installation, you can do by your own. And we have this RAC 12C setup, ASM with the Oracle user, and we have RAC 19C setup, ASM installed with the grid user, and we have RAC 19C setup, ASM and database installed respective with the grid user and Oracle user, and we have 19C RAC setup, which is installed with Oracle user. Your ASM and database both are installed with Oracle user, and we have this ASM and RAC, ASM and database installed respectively with the grid user and Oracle user. You can use this one, any of that. Just download this one locally on your laptop. Once you download it, you can just configure it using your virtual box. So if you have like 16 GB RAM, just use this ready labs. You'll not be able to practice the installation because the installation needs more than 16 GB, minimum 18 GB or 20 GB, so that installation will never be stuck. Right, so that's about the lab, how we're going to access. So it will be on your own laptop or the desktop, whichever you're using. We'll be using Oracle Virtual Box to set up your labs, and there's no online labs as such I'm providing. All right. Any questions so far on the?
So in case of lab setup, if you have stuck, then who will going to help? How?
Again, as I said, right, we have a dedicated WhatsApp group for each batch, and not only the installation. If you're stuck with installation or you're referring to our old videos and you're stuck with a particular concept, you just take a screenshot and post it in the WhatsApp group, and then immediately you're going to get answer, because the same issue or same questions already explained, already resolved for the other student. They can respond you, or any of my friend who in the group, they can respond you. Or if nobody is responding, I'm there to come. I'll connect one to one, and then I'll unblock you, and then you can continue with your installation. Not only for the installation, any questions or queries, and you're working on any of the client, and your client asks you, can you take my OCR backup for this cluster? You don't know how to take that OCR backup. You can just post your questions, or you're taking OCR backup, or you're taking RMAN backup. That backup failed. Just take a screenshot, error message, post it in the group. Will be answering you, right? So these a Google Drive access and the WhatsApp group are the lifetime accessible. You can ask any questions, queries, and post your any concerns over there. All right. There are a few questions in the chat here. Let's take them. Do you have any courses about Exadata? Sorry, I don't have any Exadata courses. All this topic will be covered with a practical session, right? Yeah. All these questions will be, as I said, live practically demonstrated, because you might have already seen the way how I explain in my YouTube channel, right? Like just open lab terminal, just start executing the commands. There's no, like, I'll just cover one or two simple layman term concept, and once you understand the concept, directly jump onto the lab, demonstrate in the live. Can you give a support in future? Yes, as I said, we have those dedicated WhatsApp group, right? those are like lifetime accessible. You can ask as long as you are active in the WhatsApp group. Everyone are posting any questions or queries in the WhatsApp group. Those WhatsApp group will be supported for the lifetime, right? So you can ask any questions or queries, not only related to this course, even your work environment. If you are doing any particular activities, for example, DRDL, converting DR primary as a standby as a primary, your DR goes out of sync, and your any other like backup failure, restore failure, your recovery failure, any questions, just take a screenshot, just take a log error messages, post it in our group. We'll be there to help you or support you. Right, Mujahid is asking, do you have any primary, secondary server concept? Yes, we have this primary and secondary. I just now answered for one of the query, right? We'll be covering one topic where I will explain about setting up of primary to standby to primary, how we can do a conversion, how we can build. So all will be covered during the RMAN itself. I can conceptually, I'll explain you how in the RAC, in the standalone, in with ASM and without ASM, how this works. So we'll be explaining it. Right? Can you provide entire documentation for RAC? Yes, as I said, uh, if you go here, there are so many things. There are so many documents, so many lab exercise, PPTs, workbook. Everything will be accessed in the Google Drive. You can, okay, will be provided all of this. Right. So, right, there are so many other questions which are not related. I can just ignore. Okay. Online grid patching can be demonstrated without downtime. Yes, as I said, right? The patching will be covered with a different wide vast. Like there's a rolling, non-rolling, online, and you can cloning. So all will be covered over here. Right, lab installation instruction. Again, that's where we'll be covering as part of our first class. The installation instruction will be covered and will be all available in the Google Drive. All right, so those are the questions came in chat here. Right, Prashant is asking, are we covering the specific weight events? Again, no, we will not be covering anything to performance tuning related or performance related topics over here. As I said, that's going to be separate class of the performance tuning. If at all, if I start the new class, that's going to be on the performance tuning. But here will not be covered anything related to performance tuning. All right. So that's course curriculum. What is going to be covered here? Again, you can feel free to. I'm gonna ping in the chat here if anyone missed it. Probably you might have all have this course curriculum or the your course timings or the upcoming batch should be like available over here. If at all, if you don't have access, you can feel free to reach out to me on my email ID or my WhatsApp number or give me a call. I'm happy to, discuss further and uh, clarify all your questions or queries. Right. Rather than calling it later, feel free to unmute yourself and post your questions or queries, whatever you have it. I'm happy to take it right away. All
Yeah,
right.
hi Malik. Rahul this side.
Yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, Malik, like Prashant said regarding the basic thing of AWR and ASH.
Yeah,
Are
we'll be
we covering those things? Means
right. No,
little
if
bit
at
like
all, no, again, as I said, right, these all are not part of this current course curriculum. And again, as we continue with the course, there will be a lot of requests will be coming from others. Like, the people will start, can you gonna cover OEM, Oracle Enterprise Manager, one or two concept? Can you cover Golden Gate for one or two concept? Can you cover some Exadata basics, one or two topics? Again, there will be a lot of requirement from many people based upon their current work model. If you are working on performance tuning, you are concentrated on performance tuning. If somebody is working on Exadata, they're going to ask, can you cover one or two topics on Exadata? Right? So it's all based upon how many people are interested. At the end of the course, we can accommodate one or two topics on the particular requested topics. and then we can cover 1 or 2 extra topics. But again, this is right now, as per the course curriculum, these are not covered. It's all subjected to how many of them are interested. We'll take it as an extra topic after this end of this course.
Okay, actually, as a I'm Oracle Apps DBA and like concurrent program related things, sessions, and how it goes node to node. So those things I am
Again,
looking for.
like there is no specific way I can teach you, right? Like if you say concurrent program, I cannot show you that demo here because concurrent
Yeah,
program
correct.
will never come into picture when you do a normal rack setup. You have to do a EBS setup, and then you have to do a concurrent programmer and then workflow manager. Setup itself will take 1 or 2 weeks, right? So again, it is all generic concept. I can cover 1 or 2, that too at the end of this course. If at all, that's again subjected to everyone interest. If I try to talk about concurrent programming, nobody will understand in my course because you are working on EBS, but others may not be working on EBS. Right. So again, we'll take it offline and we'll see like those are like extra topics will be covered at the end of the course by based upon the how many students are requested or interested on that particular topic. All right. So what we covered so far is introduction, followed by course curriculum, and followed by uh, the course timing and the fee structure. Right. So again, I have not talked about the payment mode, so you can feel free to ping me or call me on my WhatsApp number if at all you're interested to continue with this particular course. I'm gonna guide you through that further payment process and what are the various options you have it. I'm gonna drive through all of them about the payment process. Right. With that, I'll take it as no one has any questions or queries on this about topic, whatever we discussed. Let's continue with the few topics or the few concept.
Hi, Malik.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. My laptop hardware configuration is 8 GB RAM and 512 GB SSD. So will you provide server access for
No,
practice?
no. The again, it's all will be on your own laptop, individual laptop or desktop. The setup will be done on that machine. There's no online lab facility.
Thank
All right.
Yes, Malik, you can describe on to get the access from the cloud and the practice from our own. So if you
Again,
should have,
if you
yeah,
if you want to uh, take up from the cloud, which cloud you're referring, and there's no concept of rack on your Azure or AWS. You cannot do that rack configuration on your Azure or AWS, and even on Oracle Cloud, it's all about database as a service. You're gonna get a brand new installed setup itself. In order to do that installation from the scratch, it has to be your on-premises and where you can do it from the scratch. For the cloud, again, you will not be able to do that installation. All right. So yeah, let's continue now. Let's talk about a few concepts. Just a simple terminologies. What is a standalone database versus a rack? So what is standalone and rack? The very first basic understanding. By this time, before we continue with the rack course, you should be aware of what is a standalone. Right? What is the standalone? Again, the standalone in a simple terminologies where you have, I can just say 1-to-1 mapping. That's your a standalone. If I want to describe a standalone, it's just like 1-to-1 mapping. What is 1-to-1 mapping? You have one database and one instance. That is your a standalone. And in case of RAC, I can say many to one mapping. I can say in RAC, I can say many to one mapping. What is that many? So in case of standalone, let's say here I have server lab 1, I have my ORCL instance. This is my instance, and then that is mapped with my ORCL. This is my database. It's just like 1-to-1 mapping. In a single server, I have one instance and one database. And any client want to connect, they have to always connect on my instance. Via instance, they're going to access my database. One instance and one database mapped together will form my standalone. In case of RAC, I have my node 1, that is your server 1, like lab 1, and then I have my node 2, that's my Linux server 2, and I have my node 3, Linux server 3, where I have my ORCL instance 1, ORCL instance 2, and I have my ORCL instance 3. I have three instances, instance 1, instance 2, instance 3. I have three instances. All of the three instances are mapped to a single database, ORCL, right? So all the three instances are mapped to one single database. That's your RAC. Any client one connect, he's going to connect to instance 1, or he may connect to instance 2, or he may connect to instance 3, any one of that. He just need one instance to connect. From that instance, he's going to access my database. That's your RAC, right? So here, if you observe, this database need to be stored across common storage. I think this is your storage here. This storage may be anything, right? Like it may be your NAS or SAN or ASM or whatever it is. This storage need to be attached to this server. This storage need to be attached to this server, and this storage need to be attached to this server. We should have this common storage so that I can keep my database over there, so that I can access that database from any of this node, because the storage is already attached to all the servers. That's your RAC. So what we are dealing in this particular course is RAC. We'll be going with a 1 node, 2 node, 3 node, 4 node, the different nodes of RACs, how we're going to configure your shared storage and then access it. And in case of this RAC, we have a lot of advantages. What are those advantages? Here it's a one single server, lab 1. And if this particular server goes down, if the server crashes, server went down, your database will be down. Your client will not be able to access your database, right? That's your one of the limitation, right? Like 1-to-1 mapping where the server itself gone down, or your instance itself is gone down. It's a complete downtime. The client will not be able to access the data. In case of RAC, the client who connected to instance 1, he connected to instance 1. If the server node 1 goes down, and automatically this client will be rerouted or reconnected to node 2 or node 3. Your client can still continue to access the database. from the other available servers, or your instance itself goes down on node 1. Again, your server goes down or the instance goes down, doesn't matter. Your client will immediately fail over to other nodes and they can able to access the database. Right? Your business is continue to run, your client transactions continue to run. And that's one of the biggest advantages of RAC, where you have multiple instances mapped to one single database. Right? That's a simple understanding between the standalone versus RAC. So it's a one-to-one mapping and it's a many-to-one mapping. But again, if you go on the other database terminologies like your MS SQL or your IBM DB2, or you can go with the SAP HANA, all other words in the different concept. Right? What is the different concept? They all follow one to many. They all follow this Oracle. I'm talking about this Oracle standalone, and this is Oracle RAC. Oracle standalone is one-to-one mapping, one instance, one database mapping, and Oracle RAC, many instance mapped to one database, many to one mapping. But if you talk about the other outside of database world, they all talk about one to many mapping. One to many mapping in the sense they have one instance. Under that instance, they will run multiple databases like ORCL, like Dev. Their database terminologies will be different, but I'm just giving example. Test and UAT. So there are multiple databases. These are the databases considered for your MS SQL, DB2, SAP, and any other database product. The multiple databases are all belongs to one instance. They can give instance name as MS SQL 1. This is instance 1. Right? Any client want to connect via instance, they are going to connect to that particular database. The client 2 want to connect via instance, they're going to connect to that particular instance. Right? That is outside world. Outside of Oracle, it is one instance mapped with multiple databases. Right? So all other world will follow this concept, one instance mapped to multiple databases, and that is how it should be. Because even if you go with any cloud concept, there's a one Oracle cloud mapped with the multiple tenants, and then each tenant again mapped with the multiple resources. That's how it should be. But in RAC, it is different. One instance cannot be mapped with multiple databases. It's a multiple instance mapped to one database. So how Oracle has to manage this particular concept where other database technologies are working. So that is something Oracle has introduced called a PDBs, CDB and a PDB a database concept. So they came up with this multi-tenant architecture, CDBs and PDBs, where whether your database is one-to-one mapping standalone or many-to-one mapping RAC, your database may be anything, but we are going to introduce this CDBs and PDB concept similar to this how outside world is accessing it. So what is that meaning? If I go back to my old diagram, right? If I go back to this old diagram, how Oracle is managing now with the help of this CDBs and PDB concept. So all right, we have created one instance and one database. That is fair enough. You have this one instance and one database is formed, and inside this particular database, this ORCL is the database, and inside that database, you can go and then create your multiple sub databases like Dev, like UAT, like your test. right? These are like your pluggable databases. So your main database, this is your main database ORCL. Your that is called your CDB database. This ORCL is called a CDB database, and inside that all the PDBs, your dev PDB and your UAT PDB and your test PDB. So if the client wants to connect to dev, he is going to connect to this ORCL instance. Via that instance, his connection will go to the database. That is about a dev database. The client one connection go to instance. Via that instance, his connection will go to that particular PDB. And if the client 2 wants to connect, the client 2 connection will go to instance. Via that instance, connection will go to the database. And inside database, your CDB database will handle where to pass that connection. Your client 2 will connect to your ORCL, and from that ORCL, it's gonna go to UAT if he is trying to access UAT. So that is like one database and multiple pluggable database. One to many mapping that is supported in case of your CDB and PDB concept. And again, this CDB and PDB is also one separate topic will be covered in our course. Again, this is one to many mapping. Here, one, it's not an instance, it's a one database and many PDBs. Right? That is about CDB and PDB concept they introduced in order to support this one to many concept, which is general, where all the outside world is using this one, including cloud and other technologies. Right. So that is a different conceptual visualization where you can see this one. What I explained so far is this one. Right. So you have a client 1, client 2, client 3. They're connecting with any of these devices, right? Nowadays, we're all using with the mobiles or the web viewer or the desktop. Any of those are like front end or a client or web or presentation layer or anything you can call different terminologies. The client may be connecting using any of those devices. All those requests will go to application server. Application servers are nothing but your middleware or app server or web server, anything you can call it. From the app server, there the business logic will runs, and from that you're going to route it to your instance, right? And from the instance, whatever the client connected to instance, via instance, he's going to access to database. But as I said, if this server goes down or if this instance goes down, it's a complete downtime. Your data is not accessible, right? So again, if you go with the RAC, we have again clients coming from different devices. The connection will go to application server. From the application server, the connection will go to either instance 1 or instance 2 or instance 3 based upon the load balancing here. Load balancing in the sense each of the server, this is my server 1, this is my server 2, and this is my server 3. I have 3 servers, and then in this server I have 10 connection. In this server I have 11 connection. In this server I have only 2 connections, right? If the client 3 comes and he will go to application server, from application server your connections will be intelligently routed to instance 3. This is your instance 3 will be routed to your instance 3 because we have only 2 connections here. Your this instance 1 and instance 2, your server 1 and server 2 are loaded with the 10% and 11%, but your instance server 3 is loaded with only 2%. Your client connection will go to instance 3 or server 3, and the client 4 connects and it will go to application server. From application server again the connection will go to your instance 3, and the client 5 comes or client 6 comes, client 7 comes. All these connections will go to your instance 3. That is called your load balancing, right? We have something called load balancing. So again, load balancing is performed by your scan. We'll cover in detail in our regular classes how my scan is able to do this load balancing, how my scan is aware of this load. All those things will be covered in details, but we have this a scan concept the load balancing will be done by your scan. And then we have this concept called HA, nothing but your high availability. Right? These are like simple concept in the simple layman term. I'm trying to explain why RAC and what is the advantages. Load balancing is the one thing just now we understood. My scan is smart enough, intelligent enough to route the connection to a server where it does not have any load. Right, and then we have other advantages in HA in RAC. Right, so other advantages is HA, high availability. What that mean, high availability? In case of here standalone, there's no HA. Your instance goes down, your database is down. Here, your instance goes down, the moment instance goes down, you have other instance 2 and instance 3. You have instance 2 and instance 3 to support your incoming client request. Right, your instance goes down, instance 2 goes down, still you have instance 3 to support your other incoming client request. Whatever the incoming client request will be never be impacted, because if one instance goes down, we have a other available instance to serve that request. That's your high availability. Multiple instance will help us to establish that incoming client connections. And the other one is failover, or we call it as a TAF, a transparent application failover. What is the transparent application failover? Right, so transparent application failover is, for example, let's say my client 1 connected to application 1 server, connected to instance 1, and then this instance 1 goes down, automatically these connections will be failed over to instance 2 or instance 3. These connections will be routed to any one of these instances. And my client will not be aware that the instance was crashed or the server crashed, his connection was failed over to other instance. He will not be aware of that failover. That is your a transparent application failover. The client is continuing to run. Right, again we have two concepts here in the TFA: session failover or your select failover. We'll talk about that session failover and select failover in our regular classes. But the failover is the other advantages. In case of RAC, client is no need to worry. He's continue to do his transactions, and then he's gonna continue to do the business. But again, there's some limitations. Okay, what all failover happens? Like your select query or your DML query. Your select query is only supported with the failover. Your DML query supported with the select query and not supported with your DML queries. If the client is doing insert, update, delete, or truncate, drop, those are not supported. He has to resubmit that query. But if he's doing a select query, he's gonna continue to run. So what that means, this client is doing some select. He's doing some select statement on the employee table that has 1 million record. And then he connected to instance 1 and he ran the report. And then out of 1 million, 0.5 million records, he got it already. And this instance crash happened. And then the connection goes to second node. And then remaining 0.5 million will be fetched from the other instance. The session will be failed over and the query will be continued to run from that point where it has failed over. If it's a select query that is supported in the RAC. So if you're doing a insert, if you're doing insert statement or some modification, update or DML queries, 1 million record, 0.5 million record is inserted, each instance was crashed and the session went to second node. Whatever the 0.5 million record is inserted will be rolled back. And then that client has to resubmit the same insert query again here. And then you're going to start it from 0 to 1 million record. You're going to do the reinsertion of records from the scratch. Whatever the 0.5 million record inserted will be rolled back. That is your not supported feature in case of DML operations, insert, update, delete, which is not supported in case of failover. Only the select query is failover supported, right? So somebody asked about 19C new feature, right? So we have something called um, this is the TAF, transparent application failure. We have something called a TAC, transparent application continuity, where DML queries are supported. If you configure your TAC in 19C, even DML queries we support for the failover functionality. So that is a very complicated concept. That is again new in 19C. You can configure your database with a TAC, transparent application continuity, and you can achieve this DML transaction failovers. And also your DR failover, your DR failover or your DR switchover also supported with the tag. That's a huge concept. You can understand more on that. Right. So that is a simple understanding. Right. Simple understanding on. Oh, give me a second. So that is. Sorry for that. Okay, that is a simple understanding about your standalone versus RAC. Right. In simple word, whatever these two concepts I talked is a different thing. But when it comes to standalone RAC, these are the two concepts. Oracle standalone one-to-one mapping, Oracle RAC one-to-many mapping. Right now, I'll remove this mapping concept because we understood now what is standalone, what is RAC. And in RAC itself, we have two options. One is RAC database, and one is RAC one node database. In standalone itself, we have Oracle single node, or you can say Oracle restart server. Right, we can many again we'll talk about the single node or your server. Right, so we have in standalone two types of databases. In RAC we have again two types of databases. Again, this one-to-one mapping, it's many-to-one mapping, but these are the different types of databases altogether. If somebody asked what are the different types of databases, we have a single node or single server instance or single instance. Many people will say single instance. Right, that is based upon your just the practice or the terminologies which you are familiar, you can call it as. So how I can differentiate between all of these four? I'll just explain here. Let's say here I have this lab 1, I have again this lab 2 here. Let's say this is my lab 1 and this is my lab 2. So I'm going to install a database called DevDB. I'm going to install same thing, my database called a DevDB here or TestDB. right? And then I have two more servers. I have this node 1, and then I have this node 2, where I'm going to run my let's say CDB1 instance 1, and then I'll go with CDB instance 2. Right, I have of two different concept here. Like, this one I call it as a single node or single instance, and then this one I call it as a Oracle restart, and here I can call it as one is a RAC and the other one is a RAC One node. Right, so two types of database over here. So CDB1 and CDB2, it's a RAC database, and then I can say one more type of database, right? It's a DB_1, and then here it should be DB_2, two instances. It's a RAC One node. This database is pretty much, we call it as a RAC One node. And then this database, we call it as a RAC database. And then this database is a single node or single instance, and this is Oracle restart. Your single node or Oracle restart are both are running on a single server, but this particular test DB running on plus ASM storage. Here your database running on ASM storage, and here your single node, your database running on file system, the local file system. That's the only difference between your single node or single instance or Oracle restart. Your database is storing under ASM, that makes it as a Oracle restart. So if I go to my lab here quickly to show that, so if I do, this is my Oracle lab 1 PSFNEF grep SMON, I have this DB database. If I can connect to my database, again I can explain in regular classes about each and every command, but right now I want to show only this DB. This is an instance, one instance mapped to my database. Select name from VDollar database or the data file. Right, I have these files: U01 app, Oracle, Data, DB data files. So this is anything start with this slash is your local file system. If I can go here, exit, go here into that local storage and do LSF and LTR, I have all these files. Right, that is my Oracle, a single node or the single instance where DB database is running on this lab 1, which is residing under local file system. All my database, data files, control files, redo log files, archive log files, everything is stored locally on that local storage. That is called your a single instance of the single node database. Whereas I have this lab 2, Oracle lab 2, PS-EF, grep,
Hello.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, Malik. Yeah.
Give me a second. Yeah. Give me a second. I'll get back my screen. Bear with me. Give me a second. I'm gonna get my screen in a minute. All right. Let's share my screen back again. Right. Let's go back here. PSF and EF grep SMON. Okay. Right now, I have this test DB and this particular test DB running under your ASM storage. How I can check that particular ASM storage? The moment I do PSF and EF grep SMON, I can pretty much see ASM is running over here. So you can quickly connect to your Oracle user and then run .env, set your environmental variable, right, and then connect back to your database or the database instance. Select name from $, data file, right? So now the difference between the DevDB, which is starting with a /U01, that is your local storage, and here your test DB database, which is running under ASM. And the moment I connect to my test DB database here, SQL plus SSDBA, and all the data files are residing under plus data. Anything start with this plus, that indicates the storage is ASM. And then if I want to go to that ASM, I need to set the environmental variable to my ASM. So I'm gonna run this same .env environmental variable, set it to plus ASM, env grep capital vara. So now the environmental variables are set to ASM. I have something called ASM command line utility, ASM cmd -p. Again, what is this -p? That's a path. It's gonna give you which location you are into. lsdg. If I do lsdg here, lsdg, so I can see my data, RICO and OCR, all are these my disk groups. The storage provided by my ASM, the database running on ASM storage. Those are your ASM storage. We have created those storage, and that's where my test DB database, when I query that name of all the data files, all are running under my plus data and test DB and data file. If I can go to this location on my ASM storage, right now I'm under ASM command line, ASM storage, cd into that plus data test DB data file, ls-l, I have all those data files over here. That is your ASM storage. That's the only difference between your single node or single instance to Oracle restart. Both are running under single server, both are running with a single instance, both are mapped to a single database, but only thing is the storage, the location difference. For your single node, database is running under file system. For Oracle restart, database is running under your ASM. So why we call it as a Oracle restart? Because of this ASM, we have that HA, high availability service, which will be keep on monitoring my database instances. Like if I check for my database instances here, my test DB instance, If I can kill that one, kill -9, my a database instance, the particular process ID, OS process ID, I'm going to kill that one. The moment I kill that, my database is gone. And same thing for Oracle single node or Oracle restart here. But if I kill this instance here, at DevDB, if I can kill that instance, gone. So if I try to connect to the database instance now, DevDB, SQL plus /s sysdba, it will never connect because connected to idle instance, because your instance is down. We killed it here. We purposefully killed it. So if I try to check for that one, right, if I do, there's a one more command, like I don't want to display the same grep again. So I can use a grep -v grep. Right now, this is actual command. Like if I do in the watch, I'm going to put this command in the watch window. Right, every 2 seconds, we're going to run this command and see whether the database is coming up or not. It will never come up. Your DevDB database will never come up because which is running under single instance, single node, running under this local file system. If your instance goes down, you have to manually start it. It will never come online back. But whereas my lab 2, where we killed this testDB database, if you see, we killed here and your database instance was down. And if I now check it out, it should be back online. Right, you can see here testDB is back online. But if I do again one more time -v grep, right now I have this ASM and testDB. I can do one more time kill -9. Right, your database instance was down. Now I can do the same command watch, the same command here. Right now we have only ASM instance. Every 2 seconds it will refresh that command, this command whatever we're running. Right, you can see your database is back online. But whereas on lab 1, your database will never come online. Right, so that is where we call this as a Oracle restart. Oracle restart in the sense you have this ASM instance. In case of your database goes down, somebody kills your instance, or your OS reboot happens, or your networking, due to networking issue, some OS issue, your instance goes down, your ASM instance will automatically brings that back online. Right, that's where we call it as a Oracle restart. That's one of the major difference. Both are running under single server, both are running with a single instance mapped to a single database, and the only difference is where it is residing. Your DevDB is residing under local file system, and that's where it does not have any restart capability. Whereas testDB database, which is running under ASM, and that ASM has that restart capability, and whenever instance goes down, it automatically brings it up. All right, so that is a simple demo or the simple understanding between standalone versus your Oracle restart. Right. Now coming to the other two types. We talked about these two in single instance itself. We have two types of databases. In case of RAC, we have two types of databases, RAC database and RAC one node database. So if I want to demonstrate that one here in my lab, right, I have this node 1, and then I have this node 2. I have two node RAC setup already done here. If I do ps-f grep smon, I have so many database installed over here. But if you observe here, it's a plus ASM1. On my node 1, I have this plus ASM1. On my node 2, I have this plus ASM2. Yet I have ASM1 and ASM2. So assuming that, like, again, these are the concept I'll be explaining it in the class. I am new to this project. In our organization, I came to new to this project. And right now I know this is a 2-node rack setup, node 1 and node 2. And I want to understand whether it's a 2-node rack setup or 3-node rack setup. I don't know. I'm new to this project. I totally don't know anything. Like, I want to check it out, whether it's a 2-node rack or 3-node rack. Right. So that is my biggest first challenge. Right. For that, we have this command. There's so many tools. OLS node is one more tool. With that tool, I can understand. I can log into this ASM. Who is the owner of the ASM? Grid or Oracle? You have to log into that one and set the environment to particular ASM instance. env, verify again your environmental variable, env grep capital Ora. That will give you plus ASM1, Oracle base, Oracle home. It's all set to ASM now. Simply run OLS nodes. That's a command comes with your rack setup. The moment you run it, it says 1 and 2. It means this particular rack cluster is a 2-node rack cluster. Or you can say OLS node hyphen I. They're going to give you what are your node, the respective the VIPs of that node. If you do with hyphen N, they're going to give you, okay, node 1 where your instance 1 will be running, node 2 where your instance 2 will be running. If you see here, ASM instance 1, your CDB instance 1, your Waraprod instance 1, your prime DB instance 1, RAC 12C instance 1. So that is your the prefix, which prefix you want to append after the database. If I go to second node, same thing, my ASM is owned by Oracle. I log into Oracle dot .env, your a plus ASM2. Anything start with a plus that indicate your ASM storage or ASM instance. If I do env grep ora, ASM2, Oracle base, Oracle home, same command, OLS nodes, again giving 1 and 2, OLS node hyphen n, and that's giving instance 1 and instance 2. Right, so here whatever you observe, CDB instance 2, prime DB instance 2, Waraprod instance 2, RAC 12C instance 2, CDB instance 2, whatever we saw your instance 1, CDB instance 1, instance 2 is on the other node. Right, so with help of these basic commands, I can able to understand it's a 2-node rack setup. That's where we have this instance 1 and instance 2. And now I'll set it to one of the database. Let's say CDB as a database here. Right. So we have something called srvctl config. Again, this command will be explained in our regular classes, but I'm just giving some basic command here. srvctl config database hyphen d, srvctl config database hyphen d, or srvctl status database hyphen d. These are the instance name, right? Whatever I was seeing here, CDB1 and CDB2, those are the instances. But your database will be mapped to one common storage here. Both are mapped under one common storage over here. Right. So your instance 1, CDB1 and CDB2 are two instances, and your CDB is your actual database name. srvctl status database hyphen d, your CDB database. Right, it says CDB instance 1, CDB instance 2, running on node 1 and running on node 2. And instead of status, if I do config, here, srvctl config database hyphen d cdbdb, it's a db unique name, database name, Oracle home, Oracle user, sp file, password file, and start option, stop option. But what I'm interested is type of the database is RAC. So for the RAC database, it will be something like this. What happened? something like this. For the type is equal to RAC. You pretty much see it over here, type equal to RAC. Fair enough. We understood about the RAC database. Instance 1, instance 2 will be running and the type will be RAC. What about this RAC One node? The RAC One node, I have one more special database over here, ps-ef grep small. And right now, RAC One node, this is the name I given, RAC One node underscore 1. And this instance, like if I check grep for only RAC One node, RAC 1n, so I can see RAC 1n instance 1 underscore 1 is running on node 1. If I run the same command on node 2, I don't have that instance here. I don't have that instance, right? So here nothing is running. So if I set the environment to RAC 1 node, if I run the same command, sructl status, right? sructl status database -d and your database name. This is the database name underscore 1 underscore 2 or instance name. It says RAC 1n running on node 1 and online relocation is inactive. We have not enabled that online relocation. And if I do config for this database, again same thing, your DB name, database name, home, SP file, P file, shutdown, startup option, and this group names. And here database instances RAC 1n hyphen underscore 2, which is running under node 1 and node 2. Same as for the other database, CDB, which has instance 1 and instance 2 running under node 1 and 2. Both the instances are running. Here, only one instance is running, but configured on node 1 and node 2. Right now, if I do sructl relocate database -d -n node 2. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to relocate this. Whatever the instance 1 running under node 1, relocate the instance 1, that the relocate that RAC 1 database to node 2. The moment I do relocate, it's going to stop this instance 1 on node 1 and it will start it on the node 2 as underscore 2. So the meaning here is RAC database versus RAC 1 node database. RAC database, all the instance will be up and running at all the time. In case of RAC 1 node, the name indicates 1 node, only one instance will be running at any given time. Instance 1 is running, instance 2 will be down. If the instance 2 is down, like if your instance 1 is down, instance 2 will be up. Right? That's kind of a special use case. Your RAC 1 node database will be used for any load testing or any of the development work or any of the testing work. You can make use of this RAC database, RAC 1 node database. And if I can go back now, your relocate command still running. Let's go here on node 2. Right, your instance 2 here started. In node 1, instance 1 was running. Right, your node 1, right, RAC 1 and underscore 1 was running on node 1. And the moment we do this relocate, and immediately your instance RAC 1 node, instance 2 started on node 2. Right, so that is 4 types of databases where anyone can come across whenever you're working for any client. These are the only 4 supported databases in Oracle, and we don't have anything other than this. A single node or single instance, Oracle Restart database, or Oracle RAC database, or Oracle RAC 1 node database. Right, so we'll discuss furthermore in our tomorrow class. Again, in this particular course, we will not be covering this first portion, single instance or single node or Oracle Restart. What we are covering is only RAC. either RAC database, RAC One node, and RAC One node will be covering very little, but purely our course or concept will be on RAC database. Right. We'll continue in the tomorrow sessions. We're right on the time. We'll continue with the RAC and the RAC architecture, RAC networking, and RAC internals. And before we stop it, anyone has any questions or queries on the course curriculum or the course content or anything you want to ask? Any questions, guys, before we wrap it up for today?
Yes, sir. You have mentioned the TAC, when it is a DML statement is supporting for that.
Right.
So what is there any parameters to use it with the database level is separate configuration to how
There
it
will be a
is?
lot of configuration. The tag configuration itself is heavy, too much. You have to do that lot of configuration. It's not just one database parameter. I can enable it, which is enable the tag. Tag is a different concept. Like you have to do a lot of settings.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
For RAC one node instance, we should always to use _1 a naming convention, or it is different way we can use it.
You can use a different way, but the
Okay.
standard was your RAC instance should be always ends with this prefix 1 and 2, and RAC one node will be always _1 and _2. That's the standard prefix.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Malik, in our previous project, we have used, there was a database was RAC, but storage was not ASM, only normal file system.
Right. You can use NFS as a NFS also as a your storage. You should have a common storage across map to all the nodes.
Okay.
Right. Few questions on the chat here before we wind it up. Can RAC have a data files mix on ASM and file system? Yes, you can have your data files on ASM. You can have data files on file system. Make sure that your file system is shared in your both nodes. If you're running with the CDB1 and CDB2, and where you are storing it, you should have a common storage between your both the servers. Node 1 and node 2 should have the common storage attached. It may be SAN, NAS, NFS, anything. As long as you have common storage, you can place your data file under local file system, or you can store it under ASM. It's all supported. Right, one more question on the RAC. Ram is asking, is the RAC separate license or it comes with a enterprise edition? Right, again, licensing is a different concept in Oracle. We have a standard edition and enterprise edition. It's a part of your software. Once you download the software and install it, what you are going to configure? You configure standalone database. The software is remain same. You're going to download Oracle software and install it. And then the moment you create a database, if you create a standalone database, and while creating a standalone database, they're gonna charge you the standalone database. What is the licensing cost? If you create a RAC database and they're gonna charge you, what is the licensing cost for your RAC? Right. So the underlying software is remain same. The same software will be used for your all these 4 types: single instance, Oracle restart instance, or your RAC or RAC one node. For all of these, the software is remain same. Oracle software is remain same. But if you are going to create which type of database, based upon that, they're going to charge. RAC as a separate license, standalone as a separate license. That's one question, and one more question. TAF in our current course, RAC services contains TAF. Yes, it's all part of the course. Your TAF and transplant application failure and node addition, node deletion, and what happens if the node goes down, how the failure happens, load balancing, everything will be covered in this particular course. In real-time scenario where the RAC one node will be used. Again, as I said, there's a different use case. You can use it for your development database, test database, or your UAT testing. You want to test it only on node 3, go with the RAC one node. All right, so with that, let's wrap it up for today. Again, we're going to use the same Zoom link for tomorrow, same timing. 8 AM IST to 10 AM IST. That's 9:30 PM EST to 11:30 PM EST. We are going to continue with this further discussion. We'll go in deep dive into my RAC database and what's the architecture, what's the fundamental, what are the services, and what are the networking concept in the RAC. We'll discuss in our tomorrow's class. All right. So if anyone again interested on continuing with this course, feel free to ping me on my WhatsApp number or drop me an email or give me a call. We'll take further discussion. All right.
Are we covering like today's and tomorrow session to next weekend, like on the actual class?
Yes, we just discussed in the beginning of this class. Probably if you joined a little late, that's what I explained. It's only weekend classes, and today and tomorrow are going to be 2 demo sessions, as you see here. Today and tomorrow are 2 demo sessions, and then actual course is starting on next weekend, 13th Jan 2024. This is only weekend batch, Saturday, Sunday, and 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday, and it's gonna go for 5 weekends. And today, 6th Jan and 7th Jan, Saturday, Sunday, are just a demo sessions. All right. All right, guys. Let's connect tomorrow and then do a further discussion, continuation of this course. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thanks.
Thank you, Baba.